time to invade economics, gentlemen.
Let's go.
Yeah.
All right.
But what I'm trying to say is it's the economic heft of the Bitcoin community that can make this happen. I've been trying to do this through intellectual interchange since, I don't know, almost 30 years.
How do we know you're right and we should put our weight behind you, though?
Well, I wouldn't trust. I would verify.
Well, that's what I'm trying to do first.
I know. But what I'm trying to say is that...
Like, who else is...
I'll tell you what.
Who else is behind... Like,
I'll tell you what.
Who else are you talking about gauge theory with? Like, where is the gauge theory movement? Or is it just you as a solo warrior?
More or less. I mean, Juan Maldacena wrote an article about this when he was given the $3 million prize. He did not initially cite our work, but he did after he was reminded that he did not originally cite our work. But yeah, it's just me and my wife.
Could you be wrong?
We can find out. You see, if we were to take, for example, the Boskin Commission, which was the first attempt to revisit the construction of the CPI from the perspective of senior economists tasked by the government.
What year was that?
1996, something like that. In the beginning of their report, they tried to show why we needed to move towards cost of living. And they had a too good toy example, maybe chicken and beef, and two sets of prices. Well, if you hypothesize that the consumer was given by the most common form of an idealized preference map called a Cobb-Douglas function, preferences would had to have changed between the two periods that the Boskin Commission wrote down, right? I can back that out. So if you take the initial example in the Boskin Commission report, they can't linearly interpolate prices and preferences given by the Cobb-Douglas linearly between time 0 and time 1 and compute the rate of inflation, because they claim that the index would not exist, technically called a Lasper's Conus index. If you allow the Conus index to have changing preferences, they can't compute it. We can. I can give you a number. Mm-hmm. And then you can ask, well, can they, maybe they can compute it. But I can promise you that in their literature, they claim not only haven't they computed this, but it is impossible. Work of Fisher and Shell claims that it is impossible to have a changing preference index cost of living adjustment.
Well, the answer is that the U.S. government doesn't want the accurate measurement.
They don't want. I wouldn't say it that way. I would say they don't want something where they're not allowed to toy with it by construction. Mm-hmm. So my goal and your goal,
because they want to control the money.
Well, this is where our commonality and our difference occurs. So my perspective, again, I'm not smart enough to come up with Bitcoin. It's an ingenious thing, never thought of it. We were smart enough to come up with the fact that they don't compute inflation correctly and they don't compute productivity correctly because they don't know enough differential calculus, to be blunt. And because they don't know enough differential calculus in order to make these computations, they've retained rights. Well, who knows? Maybe we'll do a little bit of hedonic adjustment. Maybe we'll do a little bit of outlet bias. Maybe we'll do a little bit more chaining. And so by saying that it's an art, it's not a science, there's nothing, absolute, they've retained the freedom to mess with our money and to mess with our statistics. So this is really where I come to you from. My context is, well, you want to show me how brilliant you guys are? Shut down not only the economists at the Fed, but also shut down the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the hand-chosen experts. I'm going to claim right now, I don't think Paul Krugman knows how to do a cost of living adjustment with chaining towards the continuum if preferences are shifting. I don't think that this field is mature enough intellectually to peer review its own challenges.
Well, just going to be honest, we just did a whole 15-minute segment where I had no idea what you were talking about. We're in a whole different world. But I think I get what you're saying is let's prove them wrong. I don't understand gauge theory.
I don't know any. You guys say things, again, you can say we don't, but Bitcoin solves everything. I'm getting bored of this. If Bitcoin solves everything, hey, here's something right in your wheelhouse. Think of this as a
Bitcoin can't fix that. That's people who fix that.
No.
People, what you need is people to help.
I don't know
build
what
the theory.
Bitcoin solves everything means. What does Bitcoin fixes
It's a,
everything mean?
it's a meme.
Okay, what does that mean?
The meme means fix the money, fix the world. The biggest problem in the world at the moment is cheap credit.
Sorry, but I still don't understand. It means something. I'm a literal guy, right? One of these guys on the autism spectrum. What does it mean? Are we fixing things? Because I would imagine one of the first things that Bitcoiners would want to do would be stop economists from computing the rate of inflation however they want.
Yeah,
But they are attacking that. They are attacking that.
No, I would agree with that. But to Peter's point about it's people and government that right now, the way it's structured can affect change in that way. And I think you slowly over the coming years and decades are going to have increasingly more individuals that align with Bitcoin's potential and its principles that will enter into the U.S. government, and at some point you may be able to get some status quo around that. And we're starting to make progress. Cynthia Loomis, senator from Wyoming, she's on the Senate Banking Committee, card-carrying Bitcoiner.
Do you know what it is? Is the narratives that we have.
Wait a second. What you just did there, I don't want to do that. That's the same thing that got us into trouble with Elon. A card-carrying senator, it's like, if we're serious about this, F the Senate. Look, I want to put this idea directly across to you guys because I want to hear it fail in the right way. I want to go to war with the idea that the economists are intellectually capable of doing what they say they're doing.
Well, you should sign up to Marty Bent's email. Listen, these conversations are happening, but they haven't gone mainstream out of the bit. It's the Bitcoin that's talking about them.
I understand this, so I'm coming back to this. Right now, I want to make a frontal intellectual assault on the Bureau of Labor Statistics' right, ability, and intellectual capability to calculate rates of inflation according to a theory which they have in fact got wrong.
Let's fucking go.
Okay. I don't know how to do that.
Well,
I've been trying to do that since this is where I come from, right?
Okay, so you understand the theory. Maybe you need some PR.
Maybe. But Bitcoin solves this. Bitcoin fixes this. In other words, every time I try to lean on Bitcoin fixes this, the podium gives way. Okay? So I just keep thinking, okay, here I am trying to lean on Bitcoin fixes this. If Bitcoin...
Yeah, but you're confusing what humans can do and what a protocol can do.
Sorry, I don't really understand this. Are we in agreement that one of the greatest reasons for Bitcoin's success is that we're afraid of a printing press? I am afraid of a printing press. You guys?
Yeah.
Okay, great. One of the reasons I'm afraid of the printing press is redistribution. Another reason is inflation.
Mm-hmm.
Some of those are connected. Would we agree that humiliating those economists who tell the rest of us to F off, we're smarter than they are? Let me make a different...
I think I know what you're saying, Travis. Travis, think about it like this. We all know that inflation is calculated in a subjective way that allows the money printer to go on, right? We've had the energy FUD recently, and whether you agree or not with what Michael Saylor did, he was trying to build the narrative so they actually have the data. So when anyone, that fucking idiot Sorkin from the New York Times or the people of Bloomberg or the FT, when they go and print their bullshit, we have to go, no, we have actual data. You're entirely wrong. And we have data that is both allows us to look at the miners ourselves inside our industry, but compare it to other industries. And we can go, you are wrong. So I think what Eric's is saying is like similar. We all know inflation's bullshit. We keep saying it. Krugman put something up on Twitter and the Bitcoin is piling and laughing. But we don't have the actual data to go, here, your statistics, like journalists cannot
there's the
ignore
data
it.
and there's also the theory.
Yeah.
Really, what would be very valuable to me is I would like to get into a fight with any leading economist.
Well, the Bitcoiners will be with you for that.
Okay. I don't know that they will or they won't, right? But we'll find out. Okay. My claim is that the theoretical basis of a cost of living adjustment, which is what they say that inflation should be based on, cost of living standard. If you chain a cost of living with changing preferences, the current theory collapses. They want a chain and they want a cola. And they want to measure the inflation. They want to tell us where to get off. My feeling is, over my dead body, you're not intellectually competent. Okay? Now, that's a huge statement. I'm not an economist by any standard measure. I'm willing to go on the show and say I'm an economist simply for the pleasure of getting an economist to say that guy doesn't know anything about economics. He doesn't know anything about theories of inflation. Okay, right now, I want to drag this back to an old fight between Irving Fisher and Ragnar Frisch. Irving Fisher wrote down a whole bunch of axioms that said how you measure inflation. And Ragnar Frisch said, you know what? If you impose all of those axioms, there is no gauge that will work. I can prove that there will be no gauge that will work of inflation. The resolution of that is that one of Fisher's axioms was wildly off, right? And it says that if prices and quantities begin and end at the same levels, rate of inflation should be 1.00, i.e. no inflation. Okay, Fisher was wrong about that. That's coming from what I call the Flat Earth Society of Economics. What I'm trying to say is, you guys are rich, you're powerful, you're in the headlines all the time, you're whining and complaining about inflation. I don't want to whine and complain about inflation. I want to go pick a fight with the supposed people who tell us that they're smart enough to manage our economy. And all of these people who go out to, Jackson Hole, Wyoming in the summer and who put on suits and ties and have these resonant baritone voices and tell us what reality is and isn't, I don't think they're that smart.
You got to find a way of selling it them.
No, I don't know how to fix everything, but Bitcoin does. And so what I keep trying to say is, you're rich, you're focused on inflation, and you don't like to be told what to do by people who are dumber than you are, who have beautiful, titles, and they sit in fine chairs at wonderful institutions. All I'm trying to say is, I don't know, do you guys want to do something or not? If you don't want to do something, feel free. We can sit around whining about inflation and the fact that they don't know how to compute it, or we can actually take the fight to them where they live because they're not intellectually capable of actually returning fire. Now, I can't figure out how to get this issue off of my plate and onto yours. But if I were you, I'd go directly after the Bureau of Labor Statistics and say, you guys are using what? A chained less pairs, cola, something? How do you come up with this basket? Are you sure that that inflation isn't at?
But this is the point. You get into these areas.
I don't actually
you lose people.
I don't care.
But you do care.
No, but I don't.
You can't do that. You can't err. You can't say like I want this.
No, I can give you. I can write something down to show you exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
and then you can say, "Oh, it's over my pay grade," and then somebody else can say, "This is it's too complicated," and somebody else can say, "This isn't data driven." Okay, then Bitcoin can't do everything.
You want to go and pick a fight. I'm telling you, got to make it a way that is easier to digest and understand.
You guys figure that out.
Yeah, but
no. Look, I can write down what I'm saying.
Write it down
mathematically.
Okay.
And somebody in the community can figure out what I'm saying. But that's not the energy behind it. The energy behind it is, I take you guys literally when you say fix the money, fix the world, or Bitcoin fixes everything, or what we're really against is central banking and hyperinflationary and blah, blah, blah. Okay. Honestly, I don't see you guys as being part of the fight against neoclassical economics. I see you guys as talking about Austrian economics amongst yourselves. But in order to flex this stuff, you actually have to beat them. And I'm going to say it in terms that we learned from Morpheus. Morpheus says something to Neo like, I'm not going to lie to you, Neo. Anyone who's ever stood his ground to fight an agent has lost and died. Okay, everyone who takes on neoclassical economics, maybe with the exception of Daniel Kahneman, fails. We don't know why. It's time to take this thing on, gentlemen. And what I really mean is, it's not that smart. And we need to basically make the point, Paul Krugman isn't that smart.
Oh, I think we're all in agreement on that.
No, he's pretty smart.
Well,
he's not Ken Arrow. Yeah. Ken Arrow is really smart.
He's smart if you believe his Keynesian theory of economics or his.
It's not that. He became something else. He was really a pretty great economist. It doesn't matter. What I'm trying to say is, it's time to pick a fight with neoclassical economics. And I see you guys as being sort of inward looking.
I don't think that's fair. We're definitely outward looking.
All right, well, then let's pick a fight with these guys. Or, you know what? I don't really know where we are. More or less, my feeling about this, and the reason to have me on the show and to talk about markets is that I am convinced that we are being called upon to create something that isn't capitalism, isn't communism, doesn't use fiat money, that understands how many unincorporated externalities exist in markets, that understand the danger of markets as a runaway automated process. As much as I hate having Janet Yellen tell me what to do, I also hate the idea of being hooked up to a potential doomsday machine, which can't be interfered with if it starts to become that AGI that we worry about being told that it has to make paperclips. And one of the great dangers of Bitcoin that we're seeing is maybe the idea of having something so decentralized actually winds up undoing everything because effectively there isn't anyone in control. We don't know.